Hello and welcome to the Impact Zone podcast. We're back again to talk more TNA wrestling shenanigans. And well, I want to put a cork in something. I do. I want to put a bit of a cork in something because I don't tend to sit here and talk about AEW very much at all. Like I will mention them in passing. But like this is a TNA, podcast or whatever. This is a TNA, sort of directed, channel. We mostly talk about TNA. We don't really I mention stuff with WWE, and I mention the stuff that is happening with what's happening with the partnership with WWE, and people that are coming and going in and out of TNA and whatnot. So, but again, I don't really watch much WWE. I don't watch much AEW. So, I don't really talk about them. We talk about them in passing, but I feel like a lot of people, I think perhaps not as many people in the WWE fan base, but I do feel like in the AEW fan base, and not to say that this is everyone, but again, there's a lot of, there is certainly toxic people in every fan base and whatever else, but thing is, again, I find that, for some reason, these people who are, so super pro AEW, and whatnot, cannot leave things alone despite the glaring truth of things. Again, AEW, they're on a very major network. A few months back, even a couple of years ago, whatever it was, they were getting up there in the millions of views. And all kudos to them at that time, or whatever else it is. They were on fire at that time, they were doing some great stuff over there, with what they were doing. There's no denying it. I'll give them their flowers when they deserve them. I'm not on here to hate on them or anything. I do not spend hardly any time talking about them. This is in any long capacity, this is probably the longest that I've talked about them for in any video that I've produced on this channel. But yeah, I just want to put it out there and saying, guys, the comparison even for people from where AEW was a few years ago, getting the millions and millions of views or whatever it was, to where they are now, getting only 300 something thousand views. And I know that's more than what TNA gets, but here's the thing. TNA is on a butt-ass network. Okay, guy? Okay? They are on a Nowheresville little butt-ass network. Okay? And they're still getting, between, 150,000 to 200,000 views weekly. So while AEW is on a much bigger network, and they're probably getting more money, the amount of viewers right now for both shows is only 100,000 or so, 150,000 or so maybe difference. And that's with AEW being on probably the best network, or one of the best networks that they can be on. And here's TNA sitting on one of the butt-ass networks, probably one of the worst networks that it can be on. And yet they're that close to where AEW is at. They are not very far away. So for those people, sort of, kicking the cans and throwing rocks and whatever at us, or trying to throw rocks, those people, they need to get their head out of their ass, quite frankly. And like again, I don't want to start beef with people in general. That's why I just leave things alone mostly. But it's too much sometimes, and I get sick of it. Like I get sick of people, you know, you know, telling me, how much better AEW is or whatever. Or, like a few years ago or whatever it was, they were absolutely better than what TNA was doing in some ways. They were, getting more people watching what they were doing, and so something was working. And like they've still got a lot of money, they've still got a lot of great wrestlers. Like, I will not put down that fact. But again, I think it is out of desperation or whatever, or something akin to that, because it does feel very much like that. The boat is starting to sink, so to speak, and back in the day, our boat was sinking as well. We know that feeling. But what we didn't do, or what people, that have been loyal to this brand haven't done, is go out of, or at least some of them did, but yes, not like a lot of them did still, is, go after everyone else. We sat and we said, what we're going to do? We're going to, find our way. We're going to make what we do the best of what we can do with it and go from there. That's what they did. They hunkered down and they said, right, we've got to get our shit together. And, they did. People still will talk about certain periods of time, despite them, like, everything that they were doing, like, right, or whatever it was, as far as, like, an in-ring and trying to tell stories and things like that, periods where they were going down, but that was because of a huge negative perception and a huge sort of downturn, in the product, and it took a lot to sort of right the ship, so to speak, and took a long time to sort of regrow from that sort of downturn, and that's what AEW's got to do. If I was to say, what AEW needs to do, I think that they need to do the same. They need to buckle down, cut everything that's not working, or as soon as possible at least, cut everything that's not working, start again, find your direction, and go in that direction. You've got to offer the things that people are going to pay to see. That's what a company does. That's what you do in this business to have business. Now, if Tony and his dad or whatever else it is want to keep funneling money into a dying promotion, or effectively dying promotion, on a promotion on its downswing, that's up to them, But, and I think in some ways, that is one of the only ways that they can right that ship, is if they keep that going. You can't just expect everything to go right. You can't expect everything to be perfect and everything to go well. Like, there's going to be good times and bad times. So now you've got a bad time, so now you've got to ride that out, and you've got to, find the landing, and then, get off it and get going, like you've got to build back up, and it might take a year or two or three or whatever else it is. It might take a few weeks, it might take a few months, who knows? It does depend. I mean, look at WWE. They turned their business around as well, so they can certainly turn their business around, as I say. And like, if I was someone who actually, cared more about the product or whatever, their product, I would give them some suggestions or whatever else it is. I hear a lot of the same sort of stuff from a lot of commentators saying what they should do and how they should, make the product better, or how they should, work things out and all that sort of stuff, but I don't really pay much attention to it. But yeah, I'm not going to do that, because again, that's not really my role or what I do, So, but yeah, it's just one of those things, guys, that I do feel, maybe it's the social media or whatever you want to call it, the somewhat media presence that I do have, or even not just on my videos or whatever else it is. It's like videos and tweets and things like that, and whatever else it is, and even some of the live specials and things like that, or whatever else it is, the pre-show stuff, some of that stuff, because you'll always get these loons, so to speak, trying to ruin everyone else's time. To me, ain't nobody got no time for that, except for desperate little bitches that, that, that's the way it is. I get that there's toxic people out there as well. That's the way it is in everything. But, just chill, bro. Just chill. Try to make what you've got better, not try to just be like going, so defensive or whatever else it is, or try to take the offense to everyone else. No, just try to focus them and say, come on, we've got to do better. You've got to do better. That's one thing that you've got to demand all the time. We don't want it to slip down from the peaks, but it will. It's inevitable. But still, it's important to try to keep that ball rolling, so to speak, because without AEW, I do think that the industry, in many ways, would be worse off, because it is a great place for wrestlers to go in some ways. It's good to have that extra, competition in the market. I don't think the still, like, you talk about the wrestling industry, I think, like, there are that many people that are out there just, wanting an alternative still. So, like, what was it? Like, that must be like 600,000 something people, at least. Like, if both AEW and TNA were even getting like half of that each, like, I don't know, but like, actually, like, let's say that they were both getting about 500K, that's really good. Like, still, like, it's not the best, but it's still like way, way better, because like, now you have this, like, again, I think I said this before, and this is probably why I've seen so many people like trying to hate on TNA and whatnot again. Not like we've been hated on for the entire existence of the company, but again, still, it's just one of those things that it does come up. But again, I said, like, if TNA and AEW were kind of like neck and neck, and like they were trading like numbers over each other each and every week, or whatever else it was, or each or every month, or whatever it was, and all of this, and you looked at them like that in TV ratings, merchandise sales, arena sales, etc., like, that would be good, because like then AEW would have to go, okay, we've got to pull our socks up, and we've got to be able to beat TNA every single week, same sort of thing. Like, and then TNA would have to do the same thing. Like, TNA would go, oh shit, now they're pulling up their boots and whatnot, so now we've got to tighten things up even more, and we've got to make things better. We've got to make the things that maybe we didn't give enough effort and energy to, as much effort as, the other things that we're giving time to. We've got to give more time to everything, and give more things more meaning, and more, things to make us that much better and whatnot. Say then AEW would come back, and this would go week on and week off, and every single week it'd be like toing and froing and froing and toing, and they'd be trying to outdo each other all the time and that sort of thing. And it might bring TNA to going, okay, well, we really need live TV at least once a week or whatever it is, or whatnot, even once a fortnight or whatever it is. So again, like bringing them to that table of saying, no, we've got to be live as much as possible, if not all the time, because like if we're taped at any time, we're going to fall underneath AEW. So that will make them to be like as good as possible. You can still have pre-taped stuff, but the show and the production of that show needs to be live, and you need to be able to have everyone be on cue and things like that. That is why sometimes it is better to like pre-tape some of these things, so you can get them to be broadcast or get them to do the thing at the right time. But then again, like there's always some production issue, and that's why you need to have production like at your core. You need to know what you're doing when you're doing it, and sometimes doing a quote-unquote dry run or gold fishing things, seeing how things will fall into place is like really helpful. Because if you don't go, if you don't do everything at the right time succinctly, then those few seconds are wasted, so that's seconds that you could be using, to do something else, or to progress something more, or to, whatever, and something else that might get, a few less minutes or a few less seconds or something else, and that can mean a huge difference in the overall quality of those segments or of those matches or whatever else it is. So again, you don't want to rush people in their promos or in their matches or whatever else it is, to some extent, but again, like some of that should be there, some of that like more Jeopardy sort of things of saying, no, you need to get it done. We need more things that are just shorter, like get to the point quicker, or whatnot. So yeah. But yeah, that's where we're at right now, like with this. I think that this is the situation, honestly. I think that people are like looking for, I don't know, something else to, instead of like focusing on their real problem, I guess, just, oh well, we can kick TNA in the foot, or we can kick TNA in the teeth, or whatever, or go after these TNA stands or whatever else it is. So it's like, yeah, you certainly can, but that doesn't really help you realistically, or doesn't help AEW. Like, it doesn't do anything. It's just like being a dickhead, being a bully and whatnot. So, and so the same to the other people that are out there doing the same thing in WWE or wherever it is. It's like, focus on your own product. Same with like some of these very much smaller shows. It's like, well, why isn't what is NWA Power like a thing? Like, it exists, but again, like, I don't know how many people care about that show. Like, so it's like, again, you need to have something unique about yourself, but you need to appeal to a mass audience so that you can get your audience to be as big as possible, and you need to be on a decent, network. I know TNA is not, but again, at least there is some stuff that, you can see some of these guys, and whatnot, out there on YouTube, out there on pay-per-view, out there on NXT, things like this. So they get a bigger and better exposure and that sort of thing. So, but yeah, guys, hope you have enjoyed this one. I know you guys hopefully won't be doing the same thing, at least. And but yeah, we try to keep it civil. We try to keep it lighthearted and fun and that sort of thing here. We don't try to tell people,
whatever and things like that. But yeah, at a certain point it is too much, and it is getting like, come on guys, chill the frick out, you know. But anyway guys, hope you will join me again in another one.